Oh, where to start? Where to start? Well, let's start with the story. I mean, that's the main driving force, at least in the later part of the game. The gameplay doesn't really have this much of a variety, and it doesn't really expand, to be honest. And because of that, it might get a bit boring, and that's why the story is the main driving force, because that's the only thing that really drives the game in the later parts of the game. So the gameplay is, well, it feels like a necessary evil, to be honest, with the story, because with the story it just doesn't fit, and they don't really explain the gameplay with the story, to be honest, because the gameplay is kind of story mixed thing. Well, it's all about, I mean, the gameplay is all about, heat source and all that shit, and it's kind of, it's it's mediocre, to be honest, but because of the story, well, it's good, I guess. The story then. Well, the story. Oh, where to start with the story? Well, with the gameplay then. What they don't explain. I mean, with the story. I mean, it's a very good story, to be honest. I got to say, even though it isn't really all that clear. I mean, they could be a lot clearer. It's very vaguely. I mean, how they explain it. I mean, what they really wanted to say. That never really confirms it at all. It's just speculation, everything. But anyway, I mean, they give you a very good story to think around with. I mean, they give you a lot of good things to think around with, and they keep you on the same path. But sometimes they go apart, and that's not really good because they don't really confirm anything. So it just sets off course. But in a bit, it does have something to do with it all. With the thing, I mean, yeah, the story is the main driving force, of course, because the atmosphere is actually very good. It might take some time to actually get the atmosphere to you or the immersivity, because it didn't really get in the beginning of the game. It was just questions, questions, questions. It was like, what the fuck? Most like in the middle of the game, then you start to get an atmosphere. Well, in the middle of the game, you start to get an atmosphere and immersive in the game. And that's also where the story, sets off, and I mean, not sets off, begins. I mean, where the story is the only driving force in the game. But anyway, with the story, and it's very vaguely, the only thing I have to say it's very good is that the game really uses I mean, all the cutscenes, all the things they say, everything is used. I mean, they don't just, throw it out there and spurse it out just because they don't have anything else to do. It really has something to do with the story, and that is very good. Even though I say I do understand the story, but I don't really know how to put words into it and say that, well, that's exactly how it is, because it's very vaguely. They never really confirms what they want to say. The only thing I can say that helps is that it's a side story going on with the game about a villagers running in a forest, and a guy named Danko, I think, is leading out of the forest, but then they turn on him. I can say that those stories are connected. They are connected, and you figure it out in nearly the end of the game. With the end of the game, they do, I mean, if you're gonna be a nitpicky of positive stuff, then, well, yeah, they kinda do confirm it. That's why I say I kinda understand. It's something about this leadership, this passion, this I don't really know the set words with it. I mean, and I don't want to really, spoil this shit either, because it's actually pretty great. I mean, it has potential to be, even better, even, one of the best stories I've ever seen. But that's false. I mean, that's, they don't, achieve that because of they don't explain that much in the end, and everything is pretty vaguely, and what they do explain doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to say is that in the game you fight these monsters, and everything is ice, and everything seems like it's frozen down very quickly. And during the game you rescue people who died in the incidents, or incidents, because it's all played out in weeks, I think. I mean, first you start with a ship having something or some shit, but they don't really explain why did the people turn into robots? Why did they go insane? And I mean, the only thing they have is just a vaguely, scene that I can only guess and speculate that, well, maybe it was a nuclear explosion that caused them, but it never really confirms it at all. I mean, if they just throw up some bullshit that, well, the nuclear explosion created a dimensional in this parallel universe that in that dimension time does not exist, and therefore this ship has been there for ages and had deployed a new species called frozen bitches, and those frozen bitches live on ice. I mean, if they just said that's it, then I said, oh well, okay, because at least they explain it. I mean, then if that's good or bad, I mean how the quality is, that's another goddamn thing. So yeah, it might be a little hard to understand, especially with I mean it does get a bit interesting, but that's only when the musty kicks in. That's when it starts to get mystical and shit. But the problem is they don't really explain anything of that really, sets off this mystery thing. I mean, they only explain what happened vaguely and explain what they wanted to say vaguely. So I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the story is very good, to be honest, even though it might be a bit vaguely. I mean, if you're gonna nitpick, then of course you can say this about the only thing I can say that the stories are connected. So think about it next time. I mean, think about it when you play it, because maybe then you will understand. I mean, this whole thing with, well, I don't really want to say it. Maybe, I mean, I don't want to put words to it, because it's still just, it's still just speculation, because they never really confirm anything. So yeah, I don't really want to say anything. I mean, nothing really fits. I tried to explain it to another person or something. I just couldn't really explain it in a good way what the story was about. I mean, I understand. I understand. When I see it, and oh yeah, that's right. But I can't really put it into words. They don't really explain. I mean, what you do when you go into these persons, you save their lives, and then time's altered, I guess. I mean, that's my speculation. I mean, time's altered. It's called cryostasis and the sleep of reason. And it was something about, people going. I mean, it got cold very, very fast. And why did it go very, very fast? Well, that's where it starts to get. And even, I mean, it starts to get fucked up. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the nuclear explosion did something with the ice, meaning that the ice did something. I don't really know. I mean. I don't really know. They never explain it either. That's the only drawback. That's the things that began the mystery or mystique and the interesting things about the story isn't really answered. Even though some parts of it is answered, and that part is very, very good, to be honest. And with the gameplay that's fits in the story. I mean, it feels like the gameplay really ruined the story, to be honest. I mean, it might be a lot better if it was just a movie. Maybe then they would have time. Now we wouldn't have time, but explain better. Otherwise, it's actually very good. The characters are surprisingly very good as well. They have a deep involvement with the story, and to understand the character is to understand the story. So if you didn't understand another character, you didn't really get the story. And likewise, the side story is connected to the main story. The only thing that's a positive thing about the gameplay is that just because it gets so immersive, and it most of the time you just get hallways that are I mean, you walk for hours, maybe. I mean, minutes, but you never really encounter anybody. And what it does, it gives you a lot of space to actually think about, what they're giving you and what's really going on. And that's, good. Because otherwise I don't think, I mean, it would be that good. I mean, the story would really lose a lot, because the story just relies too much. It doesn't really rely, I mean, just because the story doesn't really confirm anything. and it's all up to the player to figure it out themselves. That's why it's good to have those moments where you just go around. Besides, it helps the immersion as well. But then, well, in short, I mean, the ending is actually very good, to be honest, but it's still, you know, the biggest flaw in the ending is that they don't really explain what it is. I mean, it just feels like, you know, you need to take it, but it feels, you know, kind of gay, to be honest, because the the thing they don't explain, that you just need to take, that they didn't explain, is the main driving force. I mean, what drives you into understanding, you know, wanted to understand, you know, make that mystery. But, you know, past that, it's actually a good ending. And it's actually a great fucking story, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great fucking story. The ending was actually pretty good, even though it didn't really explain anything. But you just to take it, which is pretty good, because the thing that really drives the game was a fucking mystery, to be honest. I mean, of course, the instance, what happened is, you know, part of the mystery, but it just gets a bit fucked up in the ending, and it just, you know, questions all the time. Then you just, all of a sudden, you just take that. We're not gonna fucking explain to you what it was. We're not even gonna explain anything. The only thing we're gonna explain that this is snow. Fuck. I mean, everything's so vaguely. But, you know, if you're gonna nitpick, then yes, you can get some small confirmations here and there, but it just isn't enough. But even though that's the case, I mean, it's very vaguely, I mean, so the story doesn't really, I mean, it does, but, you know, they don't make it so clear. I mean, it can be a lot of different things. I can even be wrong. I mean, it could be it can be about snow, as it was about nuclear reaction. I'm sorry, nuclear explosion, nuclear holocaust, fallouts, and that shit. It could be more about that than it was like if it was, you know, just a fucking movie. What the fuck am I saying? I don't know. Fuck it. I fucked up. No, what I'm trying to say is that it could have been anything, because they don't really explain. I mean, confirms it. But, you know, if you're gonna nitpick, then, well, it might be this. But if you're gonna nitpick and say that it might be this, it might as well be this and this and this. But even though it's like that, even though it's vaguely, even though the gameplay just dies out in the middle, even though I still got to say that this is a great game. Sure, the story is very vaguely, the gameplay just flawed out, not good at times. I still gotta say that the story is still very good, and it's still able to, you know, achieve, I mean, an ending that's, you know, on the same level as the rest of the game, mostly. That's about it, to be honest. And why great is because the story was really great, mostly because the length of the game and the immersivity. Those are the only good. I mean, those are the only, you know, great things. The immersivity, the story, the ending, to be honest, some parts mostly good, but sometimes great. The ending sequence, it's actually pretty great, to be honest, too. But other than that, no. So with the ending, you just need to take it that, well, nothing really happened. You altered the whole past, but, you know, you didn't really alter it, to be honest. Nothing really happened. It was just a big fucking story that you know, that they just told very vaguely, that you need to figure out yourself what the fucking meaning was. Even though that's the case, it's still a great game. Why? Well, why? I mean, why? Well, because it's actually pretty good. I mean, it actually got some pretty great points here and there. I mean, with the, like I said, with the immersion, with the story, and with the ending, it's actually enough, to be honest. So yeah, Cryostasis, it's a good fucking game.